After what turned out to be actually quite a nice day across much of the Northeast into the Mid-Atlantic states, we have a cold front that'll be moving through with about 4 to 6 hours of showers and thunderstorms, and they'll be coming through during the early morning hours. After that, we see some improvement, and then we move on to the weekend where we have all sorts of questions. Severe weather tonight from the Ohio Valley on southwest, so a lot to talk about on tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show. Yes, it is. Actually turned out to be quite nice today in between last night's cold front and uh, the one for tonight. I woke up this morning, I looked at the satellite, there was hardly any clouds around. It's like, oh, you know what? Probably be sunny all day. The high clouds weren't anywhere close, and we would warm up fairly nicely. And I guess we did.
Turned out to be a beautiful day here, and now it looks like we're going to be loaded up for maybe a rough morning commute tomorrow, Joe. I'm thinking that sometime around 5 to 7 or 5 to 8 o'clock in the morning tomorrow, we're going to see a burst of maybe anywhere from a half to three-quarters of an inch of rain, maybe even more if a little convection gets involved, a little thunderstorm activity. And then by midday, we should see all of that pretty well out of here, followed by some dry weather and some sunshine for tomorrow afternoon. So, in a way, kind of like it was today, although tomorrow we'll probably have to deal with more problematic conditions for the morning commute. But by midday and afternoon, that should pretty well be behind us. And I think tomorrow will be a lovely day with temperatures well up in the 70s to near 80 and lots of sunshine.
Yeah, I also think SBC moved the severe weather risk up to southern New Jersey and southern Pennsylvania and points southward, and I think that's mainly because that's just kind of like where the warm sector is setting up. But that's a nice little shortwave that's coming through tonight. When I say nice, I don't mean that it's a kind shortwave or a shortwave that I would like to spend some personal time with. I'm talking about the meteorological structure of it. I'm thinking with that little low developing that there's going to be one of these, maybe these an arc of thunderstorms. I would not be at all surprised if there are one or two severe thunderstorm warnings in the mix tomorrow morning as it goes by. Wouldn't shock me at all.
Well, you may very well be right. I noticed that on the 12Z Foose, the lifted index was at LaGuardia was somewhere around -5 toward daybreak tomorrow morning. That's a pretty healthy value for thunderstorm activity, and we've seen many a heavy-duty thunderstorm come rumbling through with those kind of conditions. And I agree with you. I've been saying for the last couple of days that I was kind of surprised that the Storm Prediction Center only, he said, had us in general thunderstorm coverage, but would not be at all surprised if, as you just pointed out, we might see a couple of localized boomers that would be in the strong to severe category come daybreak tomorrow morning.
So while we wait here in eastern PA to southern New England, we have there's a working tornado watch in Ohio and in nearby areas. We're going to take a look at that. I don't know how far down you got to look at the long range, but I looked when I looked this morning out to 16 days and looked at the upper air. You want, you look at an upper air like that going into the middle part of the month, or even beyond the middle part of the month now, and you wonder, is it ever going to be summertime? I mean, real summertime. It's just such a, it's a really foolish pattern that is taking over in the eastern part of the U.S. Uh, I suppose if you don't like heat and humidity, you should be jumping for joy. But it's very interesting to see a pattern like this in this part. Not so much maybe for the early part of June, but when you start to get past Father's Day and you've got a deep trough along the East Coast, it is it raises eyebrows.
Yeah, it does. And it's directly opposite to what the folks right now in parts of the southwestern states. I told Renata yesterday, I said, man, we got out just in the nick of time. We were in Nevada, we were in Arizona, we were, uh, excuse me, in the southwestern part of the country, and that was during the Memorial Day weekend, and my goodness, they are just steam heating up now with temperatures. And this goes also for New Mexico and Texas, triple-digit temperatures, extreme heat, excessive heat, and that will be the story out there for the next few days. So I'm not one that particularly cares for or likes exceptionally hot weather. But boy, I'm so happy that we got the heck out of there when we did, because that doesn't look like a very pleasing picture to be in that part of the country over the next few days.
Well, I have showers and thunderstorms forecast for my area tonight here in North Georgia, waiting for that arm that is moving across the lower Mississippi Valley and points east. That'll be swinging through tonight. So I'm going to probably hear the what will sound like cannonballs dropping on my metal roof at the ungodly hour of 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. But rains come when they come. And then after that, looks like I got some nice weather here for rest of the week and maybe even for much of the weekend. The minimal chances for rain, which is a good thing. And you notice on the satellite loop, the kind of disjointed nature of the clouds. You've got this one area that's moving up into southeastern Canada off the Great Lakes, and then you've got this separate area that is now chugging along into the Ohio Valley, and that is what is going to be the producer for rain late tonight. In the meantime, you also could see some blow up of clouds in and around the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area, where the radar was picking up on some showers and some thunderstorms, and we'll give it a refresh. This is from earlier today when things were setting up, and you started to see the beginnings of the showers and thunderstorms down in Virginia, North Carolina. Now on the current radar, and some of this is going to be moving on up to the northeast. You can take a look here. There are a few stronger cells, three severe thunderstorm warnings and a couple of special marine warnings that are up for areas around Chesapeake Bay and the Potomac River. Those are lifting up to the northeast. And then look at Ohio. It's like a Christmas tree, Joe, in Ohio right now. Quite a few tornado warnings. I think this warrants a visit to tornadohq.com. And we'll take a look and see what is happening at the moment on their tornado tracker. I love that. You know, we use a tornado tracker here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. So let me
Yes,
get very exciting, isn't it?
yes, yes.
So you can see all the little boxes that are up uh, in Ohio. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, Joe. 14 severe thunderstorm warnings at the moment. One what looks like three, I'll check the specifics in a moment, three tornado warnings at work, and then you've got two severe thunderstorm warnings lined up between Washington and Baltimore, and those are moving to the northeast, but these are a bit more, they're just these clusters that developed inside that marginal risk zone. SBC had the slight risk zone for Ohio, and it was obviously quite active there, or is quite active there. Let's just check out just check out the tornado warnings for Athens and Vinton County. We have a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado that's got 19 minutes to go. It is 7:40 Eastern time, folks. So if you're watching this on a replay, obviously what you're seeing is dated. So please go to weather.gov to get the very latest weather information regarding severe weather. There's another tornado warning in Hocking, Pickaway, and Ross counties in Ohio. That's got 19 minutes left. Severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado 8 miles southeast of Kingston, moving east at 40. And in 4 minutes, in Adams, Brown, and Highland County, so there were three, a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located over Sardinia, not the island off of Italy, but this is in Ohio. Um,
If
moving
you
east.
allow me to, if you allow me to share, if you allow me to share the screen, I've got an interesting graphic to show you here
Joe, you
concerning
will.
what's going on out in the.
Joe, you always have sharing capabilities. One does not need to ask permission to. Um,
Really?
of course not.
Oh well.
I'm a very
I mean,
generous.
I thought.
I'm a very generous sort of person when it comes to producing duties. So, by all means, share away.
Well, you can see right now I'm sharing, and you can see that this is from the GOES satellite showing us the area of lightning that's being reported. And look at that. You talk about being lit up like a Christmas tree. Ohio is lit up right now. And there's also some fairly significant thunderstorm activity over south central Virginia, central sections of North Carolina, and as close to us, Joe, as central and east central Maryland. And who knows, we may see or hear some of the rumbles and flashes that we're seeing now on the screen off to our south and west. We may uh, get ourselves involved with that type of situation come early tomorrow morning when, as I said, we may be dealing with some brief heavy downpours and uh, just coming just in time for the morning commute tomorrow. So all of you are going to be heading off tomorrow morning to work or school. You'll be looking at. I just realized too. Oh, I just realized my son, who teaches physics at one of the high schools in Orange County, tomorrow is senior class day. They're
Ah,
supposed to go to they're supposed to go to Lake Compounds tomorrow, I think. And well, let's put it this way: it'll be good by midday and afternoon. It will be not so good when they're gathering to go come tomorrow morning, because come tomorrow morning, I think they'll be dealing with quite a bit of rain and also some thundery weather. It may not look initially like it's a great day to go to Compounds, a water park, but I can assure you, by midday and afternoon, things will get or will be a lot better.
in the meantime, I just noticed, and I'm going to also, I'm just trying to bring up Mrs. Fallerite. I don't know if she's on the chat board tonight, but she put up some pictures, sent them to me on Twitter. So I'm going to show you. This was in Kansas last night, in Leawood, Kansas. Uh, they had she had a tornado warning up very close to where she lived. I mean, literally, just in the neighborhood. And
Right.
here we have a shot of a tree. Look at this tree. I mean, that's a healthy looking tree, or at least it was a healthy looking tree that was knocked down by one of the thunderstorms. Again, this was near
Oh,
in Leawood, um, Leawood, and there was a couple of others that she sent me here that this
and these
was.
were at 1:30 to 2 a.m. according to Miss Vallerite, and that I think of all the times to get severe weather, I think the scariest time is after dark when you just really can't see anything coming your way, and you see the sky lightening up with lots of lightning, or you hear big peals of thunder, and that could be a very scary situation.
Oh yeah,
Um,
the
now,
NWS in Kansas City, on another tweet that she sent me last night, the preliminary results of the Johnson County, Kansas, and the Jackson County, Missouri tornado was an EF1, 100-mile an hour max winds, 14-mile long track, and 125 miles was the maximum width of this tornado. Preliminary results and more information was going to be coming out later today. Meanwhile, on the radar over me, I just noticed that there's a cluster of thunderstorms in northwest Georgia moving straight east. Now, if they survive, they might just get here before the show is over. So keep your fingers crossed. So far, we haven't had any major, internet issues. But the night is young, and I also have to give the dog his last walk. So I really either let them come and go, and then I get a little bit of a break because I'm waiting for the area that's back in northwest Alabama, where we've got 3 severe thunderstorm warnings at work there, and then another one on the Mississippi side. We've got also some thunderstorms, and those are moving straight to the east. So a busy night with respect to severe weather. The Storm Prediction Center with 2 areas of slight risk. You've got the working tornado watch in southern Indiana, into Ohio, northern Kentucky, and into extreme western Virginia. Some of that, the Indiana part of the tornado watch has been whittled away as that line moves eastward. And now a new tornado watch is up for eastern West Virginia as opposed to western East Virginia. And does it also just, I know, it's kind of weird. and it just reaches the Virginia state line. It's not quite further east than that, and I'm not seeing them any any kind of potential severe thunderstorm watches for areas further east, at least not at the moment. Not often that we see severe thunderstorm watches up during the overnight period in the Northeast. I mean, you do have those rare instances where we do see them. WPC has kind of beefed up the rain again. Now they've added this. They've added back the inch and a half to 2.5 inches. Now remember, this covers us right through the weekend. So it's not just what happens tonight into tomorrow morning. And I honestly think, as you do, I think that we could very well see some 2 inch plus amounts north and west of New York City of the way this is working out. But this is again some of this is maybe the majority of this is for tomorrow, tonight into tomorrow morning, and less so with regards to the weekend, which in some respects is looking less robust than what it looked back just a few days ago. Obviously, the Southwest won't see a drop of rain. Neither will most of Texas, for that matter, over the next 7 days. The Northern Plains, the Northern Rockies, the Pacific Northwest, they're going to get ample of water. So will parts, not a whole lot, but enough. And for the Southeast and in Florida, inch to 2.5 inches in some places, and then that arcs north and west into the lower Mississippi Valley. The risk areas, which are for tomorrow, by the way, with regards to severe weather, the SPC folks once again back in the central and into the southern plains, northern Oklahoma, northwest Texas, eastern Colorado, almost all of Kansas, and into southern Nebraska in the slight risk. We also have marginal risk for the coastal Carolinas down to Georgia, North Florida, and along the Gulf Coast. Day 3, and this carries us for Friday into Saturday. No thunderstorms forecast remain down into the interior of South Carolina, but we do have a slight risk for parts of Mississippi, southeastern Arkansas, and northwestern Louisiana. And on the long range, they have predictability too low with respect to what's going to be happening in the day 4 to 8 time frame. I looked at the HRRR. I kind of think that this sort of makes sense to me given the upper air and the structure of the trough and what the low is doing, Joe. You got a nice little low there. We mentioned yesterday how you don't often see deepening lows like this time of year, and when they do, if this were the daytime today, where we had a low going into western PA and western New York in this fashion, I guarantee you we would probably be sitting with tornado watches all over the place. But having it come at night is a plus. But nonetheless, uh, the shortwave trough that's interacting with this is pretty impressive, and I think I think the HRRR has a pretty good handle on what the radar is going to look like, and that's why I'm thinking that there's probably going to be um, a couple of severe thunderstorms in the mix. That's a nice squall line that approaches at 5 in the morning at the Pennsylvania-New Jersey border, and then it still holds together rather well as it moves through North Jersey. By 8 o'clock, it's just about done. New York City South and West done, and then by 11 o'clock, it's just moving out of southeastern New England and continuing on its way to the northeast. So it's pretty fast. It's 6 hours worth, and get it in, get it out.
Exactly. Exactly. Leon Probitsky, thank you very much for hitting Super Chat tonight, Leon. And we also have a late breaking development from David Schwartz, who says a new tornado warning issued at 7:42. That's just 8 minutes ago. A severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado located 7 miles northwest of Caldwell, moving east at 30 miles an hour. This covers Guernsey, Muskingum, and Noble, Ohio. So more rock'em sock'em weather out off to our west.
Now, I'm thinking for the weekend now, because this has really sort of evolved into something completely different from what we were looking at days ago. Um, Now, it does look as if we're going to get some showery rains on both days. The Saturday rain comes in the morning and is actually mostly done by mid-afternoon, and then that goes out, and then we've got the second cold front upper trough for Sunday, and I still think that this one, the upper trough for Sunday, has a little more punch to it. So I'm thinking I think we could wind up with some, let's call them, I wouldn't say low top thunderstorms, but let's call them lower than normal top thunderstorms when that goes through. I wouldn't be surprised if one or two of these wind up, that there might be an isolated severe thunderstorm in the mix come Sunday afternoon. So there's a window here from later Saturday afternoon. So it won't be raining for the Belmont Stakes, which is, I think post time is six. I want to say 6:40, and then the next system, which you see here dropping down from the northwest, comes through. This is Sunday morning. And by the way, much of the country, not really a whole lot going on this weekend weather-wise, which is a plus. There's your showers and thunderstorms Sunday morning in western New York and central and western PA. And the GFS has it the coast by midday and then gone by evening. I don't know about the timing. Maybe it'll be a little slower, but you get the general idea here. And after that, going into next week, we talked about, Joe, that northwest flow that's going to be basically taking over for a for a while, and that is, it looked to me this morning like it was going to be mostly dry for next week until maybe late in the week. Looks like maybe Thursday we've got some kind of front that's going to approach the coast and maybe get hung up a little bit, like they like to do lately. And then that goes out, and then after that, another front drops down from the north come next Saturday. And look at that. That's cool air. That's in eastern Canada. There's a 1023 high that just basically covers all of New England down into the middle and even the South Atlantic states right after Father's Day. I would be really thrilled for some cool weather on Father's Day if this works out.
It's like on the 500, there's something like a 3 or 4 contour cutoff low that literally drops straight south through Quebec and New York State to right over the tri-state area. I mean, you just don't see that very often in the month of June, but that's what we're anticipating. And this comes on the heels, again, of what you just mentioned for early next week. We have one, upper system that comes on through and produces some coolish weather here for early next week. And usually, a lot of times when you see that, you say, oh, okay, that's it. That's the last time we're going to see anything like that for a while. And then all of a sudden, here comes something for the end of next week and the weekend, Father's Day weekend, which is even more dynamic, more robust, even cooler.
Yeah.
And that's very unusual.
What's really interesting is I'm just looking at how the upper air evolves, and you've got this. We've got obviously the system for tonight and Thursday. Okay, that goes out, and of course there's another arm that's dropping in from the Great Lakes, and that's going to be rotating around for Sunday, and also some lead energy for Saturday. So then that goes out. So now you go into Monday and Tuesday, you've got this upper high sitting over Mississippi, Alabama, with a ridge built all the way up into northern Canada. So you look at this and you think, okay, in the natural progression of things, that ridge should move east, and we should get into some very warm weather at the end of the week. But the problem is,
Right.
watch the area off New England and off of southeastern Canada, because rather than move out, it actually retrogrades back westward. And all of a sudden, the ridge gets flattened, the flow turns northwest, and then hooks up with another upper low driving down into Hudson Bay. Now, that's the one that goes, as you mentioned, goes down and is very vigorous and drops into New York State and off the coast right after Father's Day. But you follow your jet pattern here, folks. So that's cool air coming up from northern Canada, going all the way into the East Coast. That is you don't see that too often this time of year. And the general troughing in the East kind of holds on right, right through the end of the forecast period. I mean, there's some hints of maybe some ridging coming in late in the month, but that's late in the month. And the teleconnections are very supportive. If you look at the PNA, for example, the Pacific North America Index, it's positive now. It goes to neutral and then just goes. The mean is barely below the neutral line, but you got one of these instances, Joe, where half the members are positive, half the members are negative, and the NAO which is now also going positive, which actually at least gets these weather systems moving along that we're going to be dealing with from now right through early next week, rather than having something cut off and sitting offshore for a couple of days. That goes positive, but only slightly, and then it sort of zigzags its way down to neutral and goes negative. And you actually have more members that are negative and even one standard deviation negative than you do have positive members. So this, the teleconnections are telling you that it's going to be on the coolish side in the eastern U.S. much of the time over the next 2 weeks. So as somebody pointed out, um, the less you have to use your air conditioner now, given the prices. And I'm bringing this up not for the politics, so please don't misinterpret. I'm not breaking my own rule here, but I, Joe, attention, a lot of attention has been given to the gasoline price because everybody uses gasoline. So, and everybody's following, people are following the crude oil price, and we know that that price is up like 50 or 60% this year alone. But there hasn't been as much attention to natural gas. Natural gas is the primary provider of electricity, especially across the deep south and other places of the country during the summer heating season. And natural gas prices have tripled in the last 2 months. I mean, they've gone from between $3 and $4 per thermal unit. Today, at one point, it was up to about 9.50. And one of the things I did discover, by the way, is that now I have a propane tank because I have a dual heating system for the winter time. If we're dealing with
Right.
this stuff during the winter, propane, I paid $3, however they measure it, per pound or per kilogram or whatever it is. I paid $3. Uh, right now, the propane price that I checked it a couple of days ago was somewhere with a seven handle, $7 and change, and I have a 300-gallon tank. So it would cost me over $2,000 to fill that tank up. Now, thankfully, I filled mine up in March of last year, right toward the end of the winter. So, and I don't have I don't use it, so I don't have a barbecue. Um, but uh, it, we're gonna have if we're still dealing with this come wintertime, we're gonna be dealing with $5 and $6 heating oil, $6 and $7 propane. I mean, this is gonna be really tough if prices continue to go higher. And that's all I can say with regards to my particular analysis.
Hope it doesn't happen. What else can I say? You don't have any control over it. I don't have any control over it. And uh, we had this German festival here this past weekend, and there were lower numbers than we've ever seen. And it was by the end of the weekend, we had pretty much figured out that maybe it was because a lot of people just said, no, we're not going to do any traveling this weekend because we just can't afford it with the gas prices the way they are. And I'm hoping that we don't. I see one naysayer. I saw one naysayer on the chat board talking about, oh yeah, Scott Patton. Wait till hurricanes hit, and gas will skyrocket. I don't know if
Well,
you're hoping for that,
no,
but
listen.
I mean,
I was about to bring up that point. That's a very good point. The refining capacities, the refining capacity right now is there is no additional capacity. Uh, they've got the oil. They've got no place to refine it. We haven't built a new. I don't think a new refinery has been built anywhere in the United States in the past 30 years, even though energy use continues to go higher. So, which obviously makes no sense, but that's just the way it is. And as a result, if there's a Gulf of Mexico hurricane, particularly not so much in the Eastern Gulf, but if there's a major hurricane in the Western Gulf where they have to start shutting down rigs, uh, uh, and 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 uh, and there's a supply disruption, good luck, because that's gonna add an addition. Now those kind of spikes are temporary, but I don't know whether we are prepared for. I can tell you we aren't prepared for. That's a wild card in all of this. If we do
right.
wind up with a major hurricane that winds up where they got to shut down refineries, shut down rigs, and suddenly, there's no gasoline or there's no heat. We don't need heating oil, but there's no gasoline anyway. But that's something that's going to be a major player.
Yeah.
Billy the Kid must be loving this show because we've gone apocalyptic.
Yeah. Well, I had when I first moved into this house, I had a 1,000 gallon tank, fuel tank, but it was under the ground, and you're really not supposed to have that if you're pondering or considering selling the house down the road. You need to get that tank out, which is what happened. We did that a few years ago, and now our tank is 275. But the great thing about having a 1,000 gallon tank, Joe, is as you alluded to, is you fill it up, and you really don't have to fill it up again for almost a year later.
Oh yeah.
But with the smaller tank, I mean, my tank right now, I checked it earlier today. It's now down to just under a quarter of a tank, and it's not. We're not going to use anywhere near the amount as we did, let's say, in January or February. But eventually, we're going to have the folks come and fill that tank up, and I am not looking forward to that. That's because the current price of heating oil is what, about $5 or thereabouts per gallon. It's crazy.
The futures price I looked at it this morning was something in around four. I want to say 489. And this is usually a time of year where heating oil's down to under $2. By the way,
Right.
Billy the Kid puts up this comment. Now, I'm going to just make this statement. Either you really are completely out of your mind or you're a fraud, okay? And you're just doing this to yank my chain. Because this is what he writes, Joe. I just mentioned about the fact with, I guess with the thunderstorms, he writes, I hope you have a grounding pole. I do worry about that. Now, who worries about a grounding pole? Do you think about, oh, I have to put my grounding pole? Seriously, either if you really are concerned that I whether I have a grounding pole or not, then either you're truly completely out of your mind, or you're just a big fraud on this show, yanking my chain. But you know what? We can have fun with you either way. So that's how I'm playing it. And he wants to know, do you suspect climate change? Because everything is climate change. I've read all seasons have been pushed 1 month later than when we were children. Okay, here we go. Joe, that's addressed to you. I've got no patience to answer that question.
I don't even see it on the chat board. I
It's
I
a
don't see the grounding.
it's a recent it's a recent post.
I see, but he's giving you credit. He says, "I love listening to these economic discussions, Joe Chiaffi."
Right. And
He is
Miss
he is
Fowler,
complimenting you.
Miss Fowlerite, by the way, is correct. Prices will eventually. The way the oil market works is I've watched the oil market trade for many years, and it happens all the time like clockwork. Uh, the answer to high oil prices is, drum roll please, high oil prices, because what happens is you get demand destruction. And we're starting to see pockets of demand destruction that are going on. The problem here, though, this time around, is that might two things. It may take longer to play out because of the fact that we don't have refining capacity. So if there is demand destruction, it'll actually, there's supply that'll keep that will keep the refineries, the ones that are up, um, providing gasoline. The prices would only come down maybe somewhat or to a floor. I think my own opinion is what we need to, the Ukraine war has to end. If that happens, that's a wild card in here with regards to getting the oil markets to come back to normal. But you know what? I was just watching today on CNBC. Even Saudi Arabia, which controls the oil market. I mean, for the most part, they control the oil market. Even they're worried because they don't want to see prices go too high because all that does is create problems for them down the road when prices come down. So it's a very complex issue. Okay, I'm going to just say this. I do like talking about this sort of stuff. It's a very complex issue, and if people are very quick to say, "Oh, uh, it's the president's fault," and it's this person's fault. We're not drilling, but we shouldn't drill because you know the because of the impact of the environment. So here's the thing. Here's how I look at this. We're in a position of I wouldn't say like a national emergency, but we are in a position of quite a bit of stress economically. We've got inflation and all the rest of it. You would think, to me, it's not an either or thing. You would think that reasonable people could sit down and say, okay, um, we need more oil on the market now to bring prices down. But at the same time, we've got, we have to be thinking about the fact that in the longer term, we have to reduce our reliance on fossil fuels. And that they would be able to come to some sort of an agreement, some sort of understanding that you can do both things. It's going to take some time, but you could do both things. But the problem is, you've got you've got one side that looks at this as their one opportunity to just basically make this big change in how we provide energy in this country and around the world, and they are totally will not compromise on the issue. And the other problem is, people are very big on to blame the oil companies. And the oil companies, which by the way do not own or very few gasoline stations. People think that they own the gas stations. They don't. They license those names out, and those are all either family-owned businesses or franchises or whatever. Sorry to go on about this. They're very quick to be the oil companies, but let me just illustrate it this way. If you were a business, Joe, and I said to you, I need you to invest billions of dollars because we need as much of your product as we can on the market. So we want you to invest billions of dollars that your company has so that we can get all this stuff onto the market and get everything get inflation settled down and all the rest of it. And then I turn to you and say, "Oh, by the way, after you've invested those billions of dollars and everything is settled, we're going to shut you down." I mean, would you spend that money would you invest money in something that the government is basically telling you that after we've gotten what we got, we're shutting you down? Of course you're not going to do that.
Of course.
You're not going to do that.
But it happens.
But that's
But it happens.
what's that?
But it happens.
Yeah, it does happen, and it's and there's another player in all of this. The companies have been told, these are publicly owned companies. You can buy stock. You can buy stock in these companies. You certainly could have bought stock when Exxon was facing a dividend cut and it was down at $30 at the height of the pandemic, and now is sitting at 105, but and pays a nice healthy dividend to boot. But you it's an extremely difficult problem, and when you have your shareholders who are telling you, we don't want you to spend the money on additional drilling. We want that money returned to shareholders in the forms of dividends and stock buybacks. Companies don't have any choice. If their shareholders are telling them, we don't want you to invest money like you did before in additional capacity and additional output. We want that money distributed to shareholders. They have no choice. And again, this is all part of that ESG movement, the environmental, social, and governance police that are looking at companies to make sure that they're politically correct. Well, unintended consequence. I'm sorry, I've ranted. I've ranted. And I will.
You were the one who said it before we started this whole thing. I want to get out of here by 8 o'clock because I'm tired. And here it is 8:11, and I could just let you keep on going, and we probably could go all the way to 8:25 or 8:30.
Yeah. And the other thing is, there's one thing they bring up these oil leases. I don't mind now. You know what? This actually woke me up. I feel better. They go on about these oil leases. Well, you know what? They're leases. There's no guarantee that the land that they're leasing has any oil in it. So when an oil company takes hold of an oil lease, they have to build the rig. And I by the way, years ago I worked in South Texas where they used to build those oil rigs, and it's a very fascinating um, uh, thing how they build those things. It's just crazy. But uh, the oil companies have to survey the land. If it takes them about a year to set something up in order to drill, then when they drill, there's no guarantee that there's any oil where they're drilling. So they're paying for leases, and you're drilling on land that you don't know whether there's any oil underneath it or not, and you're spending billions of dollars doing it. And in the end, a year has passed. So what have you accomplished? So there's a lot of sound and fury here, signifying nothing. As these, as all the politics get played out. Tom, I don't recommend buying selling specific stocks. That's your own business and your own decision. I mean, I certainly in hindsight, when uh, Exxon back, I think around March of 2020, there was a point there where they thought that they weren't going to be able to pay the interest on their bonds, and that they would have to cut the dividend, which in that company, it was like a sacred thing, and that turned out to be the bottom. And I think it got down to like $30 and change below, and that's when oil went to negative $40 in the futures market, and then you've seen this big huge rally because the oil companies now are basically being able to print money and give it back to their shareholders. That's just that's just the world we live in. So anyway, that's why I love when people make these really simplistic statements and saying, there's price gouging and all the rest of it. Um, there's no price gouging going on. There's the markets. By the way, gasoline where I am here is still cheap. It's 4.29.
Oh, that's about as cheap as I know anywhere. Maybe there's some places that are even lower than that. Up here, well, at the local gas station up here, even with the tax that was taken off, that they said would remain through the end of the fiscal year or the end of this year, it's still 4.75 where I
Right.
am.
Oh,
Of
and,
course,
and
I mentioned last week or 2 weeks ago, just outside of the Grand Canyon, when I realized that my tank was less than a quarter filled, and I said I would have put some gas in here. 580, Joe. Never paid anything higher than that in my entire life. 580
that's a lot.
for 87.
I got to check this.
87.
I got to check to see how much gasoline is at Bucky's in central Georgia, because when I drove down to Florida, they were a good 30 to 40 cents cheaper than everywhere else in the state. Because they don't really, they sell gas. They don't really make any money on the gasoline they sell. It's everything else that they sell there at Bucky's. But I got to check it out. Yeah, the people were complaining. Oh, they cut the gas. They cut the gas price, the gas tax, and the price went up. Well, guess what? Okay, if you were paying attention, uh, gasoline futures from last week went up almost 40 cents. So that basically ate the tax cut. So it wasn't, they were, the idea was, Joe, that it's like, oh, they're pocketing the money for themselves by not lowering the price when they took the tax off. No, the price is dictated by what the futures market is doing, and futures last week, and I forgot where it closed today. I think it was 440 on the futures market. Uh, the futures price was running up at the same time. So that's what free markets are. That's what they do. So that's it.
That's it.
Ah, I feel so much better now. Did those thunderstorms get any closer? I'm gonna get soaking wet. Yeah, they're getting closer, Joe. They're holding together and getting closer. So I'm gonna have to take the dog out for a little old walk.
All right. Well, we'll see you tomorrow night, and I have nothing else to add. You said it all tonight, Joe.
I did, didn't I?
Yes.
All right. Well, tomorrow night you need to rant. So rant on something. Come up with something. Somebody. Rant on somebody. Anybody.
Well, I'm not going to rant. And in fact, I hope we'll have a quick show tomorrow night because I'm most interested in watching the events that will be transpiring at 8 o'clock tomorrow night.
What's going on at 8 o'clock tomorrow night?
The insurrection hearings
Oh
and
yeah, yeah. Forgot about that. Okay. Enough.
on all networks and all channels except Fox, and that's all
Right.
I'm going to say.
Leading for the defense. Perry Mason. Perry
Yeah.
Masonry. Isn't it
Where were
true?
you?
Right.
Where were you on the night of July 13th? My memory fails me. Your memory fails you.
Well,
What if your memory fails you when you're trying to kiss the baby?
let me refresh your memory a bit. Ah,
I thought that was one of the funniest, one of the best commercials on MeTV when they actually had that clip from the Flintstones, and then the guy says, in all seriousness, "Watch Perry Masonry weekday mornings at 9 and again at 11:30 on MeTV."
yes, exactly. May is Mason month.
May, that's right.
Yes.
Perry Mason. Yes.
Yes. All right, enough. Everybody, see you tomorrow. Have a nice night and 7:30 Eastern time. Unless you want to go at 7, I have no problem going in out at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, but if I go at 7 o'clock, I'll miss Jeopardy.
All right, we'll
And
go.
right now, the champion on Jeopardy, by the way,
As a
is from Minnesota,
meteorologist, yes.
and he's a meteorologist.
An
Isn't that
NWS
great?
meteorologist. Yes, I saw that. Very
Yes.
nice. Okay, gotta go. Night, everybody.
Nighty night.